Accounts people, time to have a look at all the formulas and functions that we can think of that are likely to come up or matter in the advanced level synoptic exam spreadsheet section, apart from data validation, if statements, pivot tables and VLOOKUPs that have their own videos because they're bigger. So this video will be quite long, so we're going through it in this order. We're going to work across in terms of tabs, so if you wanted to work ahead to a particular tab, you've got an idea which way to go and how long. It'll be about 50 minutes before we're finished. It also means, because I only do videos as one-offs, I don't edit, I'm less likely to reshoot if I make a minor little problem or a minor little error. So first of all, let's do some cell formatting. Nice easy stuff to start off with. So at the moment everything is general unless told otherwise. So if I put a date in here, right click, format cells, it's actually come up as date. I've left it in there. It would have been general beforehand, and I've got lots of different date formats, whichever one suits me. I like to see the months, so when I put in today's date, having put it in, it comes out as words and it stretches it for me as well, which is quite nice. Now, because it's a maths, apparently the original date number 1 was sometime in 1978. I can add dates to it to work out invoice due days or something. So equals C5 plus 28. It's going to work out the date in 28 days time. We'll do some more work like that on the now function. 28 days it will be that. Percentages then. So percentages, there's a percentage button up here, and that means we don't need to put the times 100 in the formula. It understands that. So standard without, I can do percentage quite easily. It's not a problem. There's no BODMAS issues. Times 100 after division. Comes up as a decimal then. Obviously that's come up to 3 decimal places. I probably only want 2. And I'd have to have percentage in my header, so I'd actually have to say standard, or I'd have to have percentage up here, otherwise I would be wrong. People wouldn't know it's a percentage. So this one solves that problem. Just type the formula in and click on percentage. Comes up as 6%. If I wanted 2 decimal places, doing the same numbers, I can just click 2 decimal places. It is displayed to 2 decimal places, calculated to 64. So a little bit of other formatting then. We'll get through this fairly quickly. 2 decimal places. Notice it's always come out as a mix because the numbers are typed in. So one way first, down to 2. This one though, it'll always be less, down to whole pounds. Notice it rounds up visually. Currency. Let's have a look. We've got pounds. Looks pretty much like the accounting function we're going to put underneath, so I'll just leave this as euros. And then our accounting function, that's quite common, and keeps the pound sign over to the left, so looks spaces it out neatly. Minus numbers in red, I've used this a lot. The order I'm doing these in reflects that, so best way, right click for format cells, and then on our numbers, see everything was general until told otherwise. That's the one. Any minus number will be in red, positive numbers in black. And then if I want to put in 1,000 separator, that's the little thing there. I could do format cells as well. Notice it turns it into 2 decimal places as well, so I'd have to change that. So conditional formatting, fairly routine, something to play around with actually. There are so many versions, it will take 2 hours to show you every combination. The first thing is the colours or the colour scales. Let's have a look. We've got colour scales, because also data bars are coloured as well. Green for the highest or red for the highest. I think I seem to use that one more often. And then it's graduated, and it will change it, so if we suddenly turn that one back into 201, it alters, so it's a live thing. It isn't done once, change the numbers, it changes the order, or add ones in and change them. We could also do some symbols, so you might have seen the icon sets. I can't think of any real professional reason to look at this, just silly little presentations. This one won't do a lot for us actually because the numbers are too close together, but if we go, you'll see them changing. Change the traffic light. No, it doesn't change it. Okay. Now it's gone green because it's higher. So much more useful is the conditions, where you set it to pick out numbers above a certain value. So we're putting rules here. So we're just going to put one rule: over 999. We'll choose our colour. Only contain cell value greater than 999. We could do less, equal to or above 1,000 if that's what the question said, but it says greater than or over 999. We'll just fill it in green because it's the high number. We'll assume it's good. And that's the only one until I do that, and then that of course will also go green. So two conditions, so above, so we'll do the same one here. So do the one rule, but you can have more than one rule. So greater than, what's it, 999 was green. Okay, they're still highlighted, so I don't need to go off them. So even though we've got one rule, we can put another one less than, below 150. And less than or equal to is an option. So that one, if that's good, if above, it's got to be red, hasn't it? And we can put some fancy patterns if we really want to. We can have multicolours as well. So green, red, nothing to anything that doesn't meet the criteria. Just to prove it's live, it will change. And then there's a few other things that may work for you. If they work, they're nice and easy to use. We've got highlight cells rules, greater than, less than, dates, top or bottom rules, top 10 rule. We've only got 7 items, so we're not going to 6 items, so we're not going to worry about that one. But we could have below average, and the ones below average, it's coming up with a suggestion. We don't have to stick with it. We can change the options, but it'll do. Again, it's a bit skewed numbers because of this high one at the front, so if I change that one a bit, we suddenly see that there's a couple above average, and that one suddenly is way above average and everything else is below average. So just to prove it works, and we can do different things with it. So a bit of wrapping. Wrapping is very useful on headers, particularly when you don't want to make a column too wide, so particularly with dates and years. But they'll come out like that to start off with. Still not wide enough, just need to make it wider. Of course, it's made it a bit too deep now, so you'll see that quite often. Angles, well, you've got a symbol here, okay, clockwise. If we didn't like that angle, we can format the cells. We could have formatted the cells in the first place on the alignment, and we can change fonts, borders, all sorts of patterns as well. We can manually make it a little bit less angled or more angled. There we are. So if that's what works, that's what works. There's a time and a place for everything. So with merge and center with centering, so there's our value. If you've got values in the other cells, it will ignore them. It'll only put that one in. And when we merge and center it, the whole lot is now treated as one cell. And it goes down to the bottom in the middle. We might want to put it in the middle vertically, or to the left or the right, but probably there will do fine. So it's the same centering buttons as for a normal part. So that's a bit of basic formatting. So moving on then, we'll do some slightly more sophisticated. So okay, I did pick up some results for center, but I changed so many of them you'd never recognise them, and the students wouldn't even recognise their own marks if they're looking at this video. So we're going to do some filtering first. So filtering means we just pick one out. Usually select the header. It will guess. It will try and help you if you don't select the header. Oops. It's on the home bar. sort and filter. So the little filter symbol here just allows us to select which ones we want. So we might have AVSY and AVSY1 as well, but in this case let's just have a look at the advanced bookkeeping. Now notice that total hasn't changed. It's still the total for the whole lot. However, if I now add up those, it will add up the new range as opposed to the original range. It hasn't updated it when I filtered. What else can we do? We can do some sorting, so we'll go back really and show that. Quickest way back to our original total as well. We can leave the filter on, they do work together. On our sort, we can have, well, what would I be interested in? Okay, I'd probably want the percentages. Comes up the wrong way. I want the highest first, of course, and then I can add a level. So having sorted out by percentage all the hundreds, I'm going to have the award date. I'm going to have the newest 100 at the top. I could put in a third level of the assessment code, but it's pretty much pointless. So notice it's got all the hundreds in date order, recent, first, and it's changed everything else. Make sure you select the whole lot. It will remind you if you haven't selected the whole lot. It'll ask you, do you want to expand it to the whole table? So notice again that number's back to where it is, but that's not actually how we want it for this. So if we go back to having them in this order, we can do some subtotal work, and again it won't change that total until we re-enter it. So subtotals just allow us to break lists down. So there's various ways of doing it. It's one of many. Main thing to remember is the function number. So 9 is for sum. I'm going to add the three of them up, not work out the average. I could do all sorts of statistical ones, as standard deviations, as averages as well, and there's counts. It will tell me there's 3. And I'm interested in D5 to D7. And then I'll do the 4 advanced bookkeeping ones. And it's so easy when you're typing it out to forget the number. But I do like the way modern Excel highlights it, so you know you've got the right ones. And I'm going to be fed up typing that in, so if I pull this one down, I've just got to change the range. It's not D12, it's D14. And I'm going to do pretty much the same on the others. But it's now 17. If I use this one for that one, there's 2 of both. The range will be right, 21 and 22, and then there's 3 of those. So if I copy this one, pull this one down, control, but I'm waiting to the plus symbol and then holding the control button down. So I'm filling that formula, but instead of filling it down all the way, I'm filling it down to a specific point. Now notice this has doubled because it was done beforehand. However, if we do it now, it'll come to the right number, and actually what it's done is it's added up the subtotals, which allows you to pull in the data from somewhere else, change the data somewhere else, and it'll update the records. So nice little one now. These are some of these marks. Well, they're not really some of these marks. I've actually made them up to suit a pattern. So goal seek allows us to say what number would achieve a value. Now obviously we're interested in passes, merits and distinctions. We don't know the result of this. Can we get a distinction still? It's under the data and what if it's called goal seek. So we're changing, it's not this, it's actually that one that we want. 2, we'll see what we've got to get a pass by putting in this value. Changing if there was a value in there, or the fact that there's no value doesn't matter. Okay, so 43, no worries about getting a pass, because obviously a pass is 70. But that won't get a merit. So what would get a merit would be 72% really. You could test and see what 71% does. So is it possible to get a distinction? With these marks? Can't get over 100%. 100% in a synoptic is very rare, and it would possibly round up. I'd have to ask AAT about that one. They've never really told us. And you might get away with 99 if they round up, and also if they record these two fractions of percentages, or the whole percentages that you see on your reports will matter. They won't let us know that one. But that's what Goal Seeks use. That's how I normally teach it. Very useful, that one. So the round function. So round, very useful accounting one. I used to use it a lot more when VAT was 17.5% and VAT returns were done manually on spreadsheets, because you're more likely to get a rounding issue on 17.5% than on the current 20%. But 19% as it was at one point would cause the problem. Lots of arguments over VAT and rounding, so we'll solve that argument at the same time. You have to, when you've got multiple items on an invoice, the VAT has to be rounded mathematically. You're only allowed to round the total down. So there's actually two legal versions here. So anyway, let's do it normally first. So it's C. There are still teachers teaching this wrongly. If you feel you don't understand it, you can Google HMRC versus TOPS tiles. It went through Court of Appeal, European courts. The 2011 rule's the one that really matters. It isn't that long ago I've caught a teacher teaching it wrong. Way after it should have been. So this is displaying to do decimal places, of course. It's doing the calculation as normal, and that hasn't worked. I'll do it this way. That's better. No, hang on. What have I done wrong? That's okay. Oh, I've got it highlighted. That's better. That's what we wanted. Not going to reshoot the video for that. That's what we want. That's the values as it should be. So round the VAT. So I can put the formula in and then put the round afterwards, or I can type it in first. So I need to say it's 12 times 17.5% to 2 decimal places. Now that means it keeps the number to 2 decimal places instead of 64 or however many it's worked out as. And again, we'll just do the auto sum, and this time we'll select it right. Use the right formulas. There we are. Get it right this second. Learning from your mistakes. So that one's come out okay. It's actually come out the same because this is mathematical rounding. It is possible I could spend ages trying to work out a number in here, and eventually I could show a difference actually by rounding compared to what it does on screen, but it's going to take ages. So this one then, we're just going to do the VAT total. So we're just going to pinch that formula. So that all these numbers are the same, only I'm going to put the formula in afterwards this time, and So as the alternative way, round down, because you're allowed to round down the total at the bottom of an invoice if all the other items are vatted normally, but only to pence. And we actually get a different answer. And actually, somebody may notice that those don't add up to £705.18 as a result. But 1p to HMRC is neither here nor there, according to the law lords. So rounding up then, we've done round down, we've done normal round, which follows the normal mathematical rules, but as you may remember, or hope you know, break even is always rounded up. So we'll do it wrong first. And I-20, what have I done? I-20, oops. That, of course, if we did it mathematically, if we displayed it, it would be okay, but had it come to 102.1.33, it would have been wrong. So that would now be wrong, because it's actually got to be 102.3. So let's use a round up. Zero, because it's whole units, not pounds, whole units. And that rounds it up correctly and mathematically. At the time we use it, this is more of a level 4, very common calculation in a couple of units. We need 200 units for our customers. We have 7% wastage on the items made, not on the 200, because that's easy, that would be 214. But we're going to have to, how many are we actually going to make? Well, if we do 200, we'll put the round in afterwards, divided by 0.93, because we're left with 93% times. Could put it in as a percentage. It comes to 205.05, but that's no good, because there's a chance then that a customer somewhere will be wrong, so we'll round it up to 0 decimal places. We need to make 216, 215 once a year we'd be short for a customer. Onwards, rank. So rank's a very straightforward one. It's just going to tell us what rank order these are. Now if this is sales, south is best and west is worst, and the key is the difference between the 0 and 1 in the formula. So function wizard for this one, you can type it in manually as well, but we'll use for a change the function wizard. So the number, we're interested in this number, and where does it occur out of these 4? And then the order is the 0. It does help you descending, and it tells us that it's the third out of these. Now if I want to copy the formula down, got to put the absolute reference in. And then it's an order ranking for us. That's the best one, that's the worst. So this one is very similar, so in fact I'm just going to cheat. So the difference is, okay, no it won't work. My cheat doesn't work, this serves me right, doesn't it? So we still have to see, that's why it didn't work. I'd have had to change these to absolute references. So now it's the second best. It's, if it's complaints, obviously it's it is second. So our best is west because they had least complaints. East is now, and south are the bottom two because they've had most complaints. That sort of is on rank. There's not much else you can do with it. Now is also a simple formula, but there's loads of things you can do with it. It's about working out in calculations what it is in time. It is currently 10:41 on the 24th, so when I go equals now, it tells me that. And it won't change, it won't it's not a clock, it won't keep changing, but if I reopened it in 10 minutes time, it will say 22:52. So when you reopen it, it resets. So it is a mathematical thing. Now, sometimes more on the complicated ones than the simple ones, you're better off typing in the now first and then going in +7, because it's working out days, and day one was sometime apparently in 1978 or something. So it's just going to add 7 days to it. 7 days time is the 31st. My safety technique, and then 30 days times 31 days in January is the 23rd. But I can do an hour's time as well. I've used this on timetables and stuff. So plus, because it's in 1 out of 24. There's 24 hours in a day. And there we are. In an hour's time, it will be an hour's time. It knows fractions as well. So there we are. Exactly 2.5 hours time. And a go, so we can do minuses as well. If we've got 4 hours and 56 minutes, it's hard to turn 56 minutes accurately into hours. So we'd have to know that there's 1440 minutes per day. That's 24 times 60. If your timetables aren't that good. So again, now this is definitely one where typing in now works best. But I now need a minus because it's a go. And 4 hours is 240 minutes, so it's 296 with the 56 minutes out of 1440. And can it do it? Yes. 4 hours. Let's have a look. So that's the time now. Notice it's reset it because I'm using the formulas again. And 6 minutes, yeah, that's fine. And 1 day and 20 minutes ago, so this is going to be a bit harder, but it might matter one day, usually on timetables and stuff like that. Minus, because it's a go, that's the minutes, but I can just do 1 for the day. So minus 20 out of 1440, so that's yesterday, 20 minutes ago, and that's pretty much everything you can do with the now function. So we're going to do some pasting next. So there's big questions on pasting that I know a few students have got into trouble with. Getting the wrong kind of pasting does cause problems. However, current versions of Excel paste link and link workbooks look just the same. In the past, the one had absolute references, the other didn't, so it's less of a problem. We've got loads of data here. I'm not going to copy it all in. In fact, the first thing I'm going to do is this one, and I'm just going to demonstrate a point first. If you just go Control V, right click and paste, it doesn't know what you're dealing with. It just tried to copy the lot, including the formatting. So what we really wanted was to paste the values, because it says paste the values. Now these won't copy down. If the data was laid out correctly, we could copy the formulas down. It would just come up with the same numbers. So that means I've got to go back to my data for my next couple. Paste the values, and one more. There we are, and those are numbers. We'll see what happens when we update it and change numbers later. So paste link means I go from my data, copy it, and I paste in a link. And that will update, but we'll see that in a minute. Notice there's a formula there, not just a number, and it refers to paste data, no absolute reference anymore. We want the next one along with day. Link and demo. Now all formulas, they'll all update. So now we have to the bottom few. Not all of them. Take too long. So those are the ones we want, but linking workbooks means you start here. Now I'm not going to have to do the other columns because it will copy across because it's going to be a formula, and I'll just find my data for Daisy and find Ely's data, find the next one, and find Hoki's data. And because they're formulas and there's no absolute reference there, it will copy across and it will find the correct data. So let's have a look, let's add it all up and then we'll see what happens and we'll see what the formulas will look like at the end. I'm just going to copy these because when I mess about with the data you'll see which ones update, except I didn't want that one, I actually wanted the values. So I get the right paste, and what will happen is as I change some, we'll see if the totals change. Now the paste values won't, so let's prove it. Andy, Annie or Babby at the top. Let's make a huge change on Babby, and it hasn't made any difference. The originals are still intact. So if we go to the next few, Koki, we'll do fine, and we'll change the net. We'll do a similar huge change because then it will show up. If we look, we can see it has changed the figures. So paste link updates when the original data goes. Link workbooks does the same thing. So why do we use one and not the other? Link workbooks would actually allow you to go over the internet or onto a server. Paste link sometimes has problems doing that, particularly with security protocols. So let's do a link workbook change. So any of the bottom ones, this one will do the VAT because it will stand out here, and we can see the VAT's changed. So link workbooks and paste link update, slight difference. You go from your data to your master, or from your master to your data. Slightly easier on networks, but apart from that, fairly straightforward. So whilst we're at it then, let's just have a quick look. Formulas, show formulas. We can see they look the same, they didn't used to. We can see the sums and we can see those were values, so they haven't changed, they haven't got a formula. So on to problems with protection. So it does cause people a problem, but all you've got to do is remember, do the opposite first, clear everything, then do what you want to do, and remember to protect the sheet. So let's have a look. We're going to protect and lock an area so people can't put things in, so they can't change the formula for their commission and they can't change the totals. So first of all, format cells onto protection. That means there's a mixture of locked and unlocked cells, so we need to clear it. We want everything unlocked because we're going to lock some cells. These are the ones we're going to lock. And those have now got a lock tick. Now they're not locked yet, it doesn't work yet. And we'll do the bottom ones as well. So it doesn't, we can still type it in. We have to protect the worksheet. Two ways of doing this. Do this way first. Right click on the tab, protect sheet comes up. And just read carefully, because if it hasn't been used to practice this, it will come up with a tick here. So allow all users to select unlocked cells. They can't select the locked cells, and when we put this password in again, it will work. So now we can go here, but these locked ones we can't actually even click on, but we can go here. So we can enter the data, but we can't change the percentages or the calculations. So we can put in Dave's sales, and then it does the sums for us. So allow access to an area. This one's the opposite. So first of all, we need to remove the protection, unprotect it. I'll go on to another one. If you forget the passwords, you're probably better off starting again. It's very complicated, difficult password to crack passwords on Excel. Go back to where we were, except we now need to lock everything. So again, it was mixed. So that is now locked. So every cell is currently locked. So all we're going to do is allow Jim to put in his sales, email it to Jim, and that's the only cell he's going to get hold of. So format cells, unlock that single cell. And again, we need to protect the whole worksheet. I'll do it the other way. Comes up with the same box. I'm using the same password. Select unlock cells. So we can't actually click anywhere else at all because it's only that one. We can type numbers in, we can put his sales in. However, we can't do anything else. We can't change. Jim can't put in feeders or anybody else's. It's not quite possible. Just there is the only place you can get to. So this sheet I'm going to use for a wide variety of things. It's got a few problems with it. It is data. It's come from an exercise that I've used before. It's the one on, can't remember which one it was actually. So you may see it on some of my other videos. So spell check first. So spell check, it's on the review tab. Excel doesn't spell check as you go along like Word because there are so many unusual terms and names, and we'll see a variety that happen. So I'm going to start at the top left hand corner. If I was part way down, it would go there and ask me if I want to go back to the top. I just need to click it. It spotted that I spelled custom with 2 R's, so I'm going to change that one. It's given me an option on net, so I'll change that one. These names are correct, they're customers' names, so it wouldn't necessarily, if it was a regular issue, I could put it into the dictionary. Now notice it's ignored stationery. In stationery, the most common spelling mistake in the English language, use the wrong one, hard luck. And it can't tell the difference between days, but it does notice I haven't put an apostrophe in there is. So it will change that one. These ones I'm going to ignore. They're my customers' names. That one's a formula, and we're okay then. So we've done our spell check. So hide and unhide. So okay, we've nothing to do with this really. So we'll hide that one. If you wanted to unhide it, select the whole lot or unhide it. It can come back any time. It hasn't gone. It's just hidden. Works often with protection as well. Remove duplicates is on my list, although there's a bit of formatting to do first. Let's make this a bit clearer. Let's wrap the text and just do a bit of adjustment so everything's visible. It needs to be a bit wider, That's okay. And then that looks a bit better because we need to see the headings. Now there's only one duplicate, it's one of the invoices. If they were in numerical order it would stand out, but I'd still have to spot it manually, or I could ask the computer to spot which data is duplicated. At the moment it's looking for every column to be duplicated. It probably would work, but actually we're just interested in a duplicate invoice, and there's one of them. So there was 57 entries, there's now, or 56, there's now 55 left. And it was 245 was duplicated. If it was an invoice number, easier to spot, but that's done that one. Freezing and splitting then. So for years I've preferred to split. So split gives you the options. It allows you to put the split where you want afterwards, and then you get a little toggle bar. You get a little bar there, or you can actually just go up to the top row. So we've just got the header, or as much as we want. I use that a lot. Notice he's got a whole vertical one as well. If we don't want that, not appropriate on this one. Maybe if I've got a really wide cache book and I need to keep the dates and the names there, I can use the vertical. If I don't want it, grab hold of it and it's gone. And the same with this one, grab hold of it, it's gone. They're there to be moved about. So the alternative is to freeze the panes. So if I wanted to freeze the top row because I want to see my headers because I'm going way off the page, highlight the second row, and when I freeze the panes, it's the top row. The freeze top row never seems to work right, so let's just stick to this technique, and then my column headings stay all the way down. So when I'm on row 520, I can still see my column headings. And then I can unfreeze them. Different way, of course, of removing them. Now I may also want a vertical freeze, so it will freeze to the left and above. So it does the same for the top, but now it does. It's not really big enough to show the difference. There's not enough numbers here, so now it will allow me to drag that across. And then the same, I can get rid of them by unfreezing the panes. I'll get rid of that number as well. So there's some stats to do down the bottom. So let's have a look. It's already set up. We need to unhide because I know it doesn't really make any difference. So highest, lowest. So okay, well, highest is actually the max function of it there. And moving E2 is the top one. And it will just show me which is the highest value rather than having to look. I could sort and put it at the top, but then it's not necessarily in the right order. Could use a bit of conditional formatting as well to try and help me, or I could just use the max. And lowest, we'll do it on the VAT column. So in there. Nothing else apart from min and max and the range. So the lowest to £20, I think that's actually at the top actually. And just to prove it, if we changed it, it's still 20, there must be another 20 in there somewhere. Oh, here we are here, just seeing it. There we are, 30, because we've got rid of both of the 20s. Average, so the average sales value is average, but it does the mathematical mean. Average. And that is the, I have to take my word for it, that is the mean of these values. They're left in as numbers. It does have modal, in other words, the most common. We use it on the numbers. So what's our most common? Now what would normally happen is you'd sort these out and just see which is the most common. We'll have a look at that one in a minute. We'll see if the answers are correct. So equals mode. If you think there's more than one answer possible, you need to use dot multiple. But this will do because there is only one that's most common. It's actually number 7. We'll prove it later. And the median is the middle of an order. But remember, primary school, stretching numbers out and trying to find the middle value. And it doesn't need to be sorted into order for it to work. And it thinks number 5 is the middle one. Well, let's check it. The only way we can check that is to resort our numbers. On the basis of numbers, smallest to largest. As if we were doing the middle. So first of all, it's pretty obvious when you look at them that number 7 is the most popular. Just to prove it works though, we'll change loads to 6, and then it changes. It's spotted that there's more 6s now because there's not many 7s left. And the middle it goes from 2 to 56, which is 55 values. So 27 values, then the correct one, means that somewhere around here we've got some 5s, and it's looking for that one. So again, we'll prove it was working, because if we just turn these into 4s, it should change. The median has got to now be a 4, so just to prove it works. So once you've got a set of data, then we'll just have a quick look at some printing. So select what I want to print. Don't want to print all the other stuff, I just want to print the invoices. Don't even want totals at the bottom or anything. So we're going to go File, Print. It's got my printer. At the moment it's going to print the whole lot. I want it to print my selection. So that's an area, it will only print that amount. And also, no scaling. Pulls it onto 2 pages, so it was already set actually. Fit sheets onto 1 page, or I could actually have just done the rows onto 1 page, would have worked as well in this case, because it was the rows going off the page, not the columns. And when I actually go back, it will remember that. So if I was to click save now, it would be set. It would come back and always remember on that page to just print that selection. The other tabs, it will be okay, it will just print normally. So last couple of things then, fairly straightforward one, but one that is problematical. So I'm going to show you the problems. I'll do it wrongly first. So when we're importing text, you have to know how the text has been separated, whether it's been separated by colons, tabs or commas or whatever. You'll see the options coming up. Sometimes we miss the target, it doesn't quite work out right. You can cut and paste, nobody can tell that you haven't imported the text. So here's our data. For some reason it's decided not to cooperate, so I'll just react to that and outwit it. I clicked something earlier and it stopped doing. So data and from text, I've only got one data text file. It's for an ETB, it's a bit like the AAT practice one. So this is where it asks me, it's delimited, it doesn't understand the data's not separated because it hasn't got any formatting. It's not like a Word document coming from a table. This one, it will be a tab, because we can see here it's working out right, it's putting everything in the right columns. But let's see what happens if we think it, or we're wrongly told it was from the data was separated by commas. It's quite a common way of doing it. It hasn't worked. It hasn't separated out our data into the column. So if you see that, you've got the wrong separation. So let's do it properly. That bit's the same. It's a tab. It defaults to tab. Or it somehow works it out. It seems to know. So when we do it now, everything's in the right column, unless there's some mistakes, which there usually are in the AAT exams quite deliberately. So that's importing text. And our last function, forecasting, you can see what happens when we do it the wrong way as well. So what we've got a series of prices. They're going up every month. They've gone up a lot actually every month, and all we need is a number here. It doesn't have to start at number 1. It could start at 2000 and something. It doesn't make any difference as long as they're in a natural logical series that relates in this case to months. So every month we add 1. So that means January is month 9, February is month 10, and June is month 14. So this is the formula, and it's easy to get it the wrong way round, but the answer will be way off, so you'll know you've done it the wrong way round. And it's a little bit like, so if you remember on subtotals, sum was 9. Well, we're putting in 9 here just to confuse you, but it's actually the month. It relates to the fact that January is month 9. So we're going to forecast the price for January using X and Y's and X's. I'm not a mathematician, I don't know why it's from X's except on a graph. So D5 to D12, and we need B5 to B12. So we need the months and the data. Data first. If we got this the wrong way round, got the B's and D's wrong, that's okay. It's obviously not 109.52. So just again, we're now looking for month 10, February, but we still got to use our original data, not our recalculated or forecast data. So it will have gone up to £1.13, and it doesn't have to be consecutive months. If you put in absolute references here, we could do it as and copy the formula down, because 10 would become 11 and 12. We'd have to put absolute reference there, there, and there. But we've got an odd one, so we just need 14. And there's our price for June, and that's the most common ones. Just to remind you, if you get it the B's and D's, clearly the wrong value, and that's all our big list of common things that you need to know and make sure you can handle in an AAT synoptic exam. We can't guarantee that they haven't been sat at home over Christmas during lockdown writing questions that nobody knows about and the textbooks haven't covered. If statements, data validation, pivots and VLOOKUPs are on separate videos because they're too big. It would make this one about 2 hours long.